Greetings, salutations, and welcome to SportsLook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and we have a new logo. We've got a new athletic director. We've got a new women's assistant soccer coach, but we've got the same old quality that you've come to know and enjoy for SportsLook. And just like the old days, we're going to start out with an Eastern recap right now. Greyhound football opened up the season against New Mexico Highlands last week, and they came away victorious. Gave up 37 points, but they scored 63, so Kelly Lee and company off and rolling. They'll be in action on Saturday against Solid Ross. Greyhound cross country, they're getting ready to hit the road and have a cross country meet this weekend. Greyhound soccer, they're going to have two matches on Saturday, one for the women, one for the guys. More about that later. And Greyhound Rodeo, you're going to have to wait. College Days Rodeo will be later on during the month of September. Well, that has been your Eastern recap, so what we'll do is we'll clear the set and we'll bring in our new athletic director, Kevin Fite, right now. Welcome back to SportsLook, and a privilege to bring to the set of SportsLook for the very first time the new athletic director from Eastern New Mexico University, Kevin Fite. Kevin, welcome to SportsLook.
Thanks, Doc. It's good to be here.
Well, Kevin, for first-time guests, I always ask the question, where are you from originally, and what was the process that got you to the athletic director position at Eastern?
Well, I'm originally from Ottumwa, Iowa, which is close to your hometown, and a graduate of the University of Northern Iowa like you. The process to get here, I'm not sure this segment's long enough to get that done, but it's been a long process of 30 plus years working in college athletics, and mostly at the Division I level, Iowa State, the University of Houston, Oklahoma State University, and even 6 years with the NCAA before coming out here. And just with a lot of changes in athletics, Division II became more appealing to me in following, I guess, the priorities for me in working in college athletics and helping student athletes. So when this job became available, I looked at it closely and got excited about the opportunity, and I'm glad to be here.
Well, Kevin, what was your association with sports growing up in beautiful Ottumwa, Iowa?
Well, just trying to be an athlete. Never really very good of an athlete, but I played football and baseball in Ottumwa and did my best. But one thing I learned was that I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed what you learn from participating in athletics, and knew that I wanted to do something with that. When I graduated from Northern Iowa, I went back to Ottumwa and coached high school football for a while I did some substitute teaching and other odd jobs while I figured out what I wanted to do. What I learned was that I didn't like the confinement of the classroom, but I enjoyed the coaching aspect, and I enjoyed the academic part of working in education. At that time, the NCAA was implementing more stringent eligibility rules, and a lot of Division I schools in particular were building academic support programs. So it seemed like a natural fit that I would become somewhat of an academic coach. And as I pursued my master's degree at Iowa State, I had the opportunity to be a graduate assistant there and be involved in student athletes. And my first full-time job in athletics was as an academic counselor at Oklahoma State. So that's kind of what got me along those lines and developed my love for college athletics. I will say my early formative years, we lived in Nebraska during the Big Red days and the two national championships by Bob Devaney and Johnny Rogers. And so I was exposed to that, and it created that interest as well.
And ironically, because you ended up in Oklahoma, the most memorable game from the Johnny Rodgers era was the Nebraska-Oklahoma game.
Yeah, and actually have strong memories of watching that. But the thing I remember the most, and I think you would appreciate this, was Johnny Rodgers' punt return in that game, and the Omaha World Herald's coverage of that with a series of still photos to show how he was surrounded multiple times by the Oklahoma special teams corps and managed to get out of it and score a touchdown. That's kind of the type of thing you don't get anymore because you have so many highlights on TV in various forms. But I wish I had a copy of that. It was a unique thing at the time and would be really unique now.
Well, I have to take one more trip down memory lane, and then we'll get up into the here and now at Eastern New Mexico University. But at one time, Ottumwa was like the only major high school in Iowa that didn't play high school baseball. They were just so partial to their own baseball program. When they finally started playing high school baseball, they won like 2 state championships. So were you part of that baseball era?
Just after that. The Ottumwa had such high numbers of baseball participation in town, and I played Babe Ruth, which was the 13 to 15-year-old league in town. And we had an American Legion team, and that was the main team, and a senior Babe Ruth team, which was the 15 to 18-year-old age frame. And then I think the high school started playing probably when I was in 7th or 8th grade. The high school team was developed, but they still managed. When I was in high school, they had a high school team, a Legion team, and 2 senior Babe Ruth teams. Now, some kids were on 2 teams, and I was on a senior Babe Ruth team, but there was a lot of baseball participation in that town.
I'm glad my memories didn't fail me after 40 years from not living in the Hawkeye State. So let's talk about you in terms of being an athletic director. At what point in your life did you kind of get the itch like, it'd be really fun to have a D2 program and see what I could do?
Yeah, I would say that probably took place about 10, 15 years ago when I was at the University of Houston, and I had applied for some jobs, but didn't get that opportunity. And the experience that I had at Oklahoma State was good because I was more involved in sports administration, the oversight of the baseball program, and exposed to, a Power 5 experience with the general marketing and fundraising aspects, and just overall a much broader experience than I had at the University of Houston. It's interesting because sometimes you don't think about that as you're going through that. And now I think about it every day because of that experience, and just maybe I wasn't, because I was a compliance administrator, maybe I wasn't as involved on a day-to-day basis, but I sat in those senior staff meetings for 13 years and learned a lot. And some of those I'm implementing today here.
So what was intriguing about the job at Eastern?
Well, like I said, the Division II philosophy and the emphasis on academics and community service was important to me. But I also looked at where Eastern plays. And the Lone Star Conference is a tremendous Division II conference, so that was appealing to me. Also close to home, or what home feels like now. I have a daughter that attends the University of Oklahoma, so that's a drivable distance and close to her. My son and his family live in Indiana, so we were already a pretty far distance, so we just went a little bit farther away from them. But that played a role into it. It still feels a little bit like, I guess, the Midwest in that. And when I say Midwest, I'm including Texas and Oklahoma. You start talking about geography, and some people say, well, Oklahoma's not in the Midwest. Well, I think it is, and really Texas is. And shoot, I can just about see Texas from here. So it feels like close to home.
Kevin, we always talk about opportunities. We also talk about threats. What do you see as being the biggest opportunity here at Eastern? What is the biggest threat on the horizon to Eastern?
Well, I would say the biggest opportunity is for growth, because I think that Eastern athletics is ripe for that. We have a good structure and a good base. We've got good coaches, good student athletes, good facilities. Want to take it to the next level and make it, more good facilities or great facilities, better financial resources, either through fundraising or sponsorships, so that we can do more for our student athletes. If that means providing better equipment, more coaching positions, assistant coaching positions, whatever we can do to enhance their experience and the experience of people that come to our games, so that we can get greater support. I think we have an opportunity to increase our revenue and ticket sales, and that takes a combination of things. It's going to take some winning and some commitment by the university, by our staff, and by our fans. I had someone recently say, "Hey, what can I do to help?" And it was actually somebody, an Eastern supporter that doesn't live in the area. And I said, "Buy season tickets." And that individual said, "Well, I'm probably not going to make any games." And I said, "Okay, buy season tickets." Anything to help us out in getting the resources we need to be successful.
Well, let's talk a little bit about tickets. If people are inspired to buy tickets, where should they go online to buy tickets?
GoEasternAthletics.com. They can buy online. One thing that we are implementing this year is that if they want to buy single game tickets the day of a game for football, they can do that at the ticket booth. Those will be cash only purchases for general admission tickets. But if you want to go reserve a reserve seat, you can go online and do that, and it's fairly easy to use.
And we will point out it's a big day we've only got like a minute left. It's amazing how time flies when you're talking about Ottumwa, Iowa. But we will point out Saturday, a huge day at Greyhound Steve Loy Family Foundation Stadium.
That's right.
I got to get my terminology down. We've got 2 soccer matches and a football game.
Yes, and we've got Military Appreciation Day. We've got a tailgate cup giveaway. We've got a lot going on, and we want people out there. The tailgate area will open up at 2 o'clock, and we look forward to having people out there and having a good time and watching a little soccer and then watching a little football and enjoying some time in Portales.
Well, Kevin, it's a pleasure to have a fellow UNI Panther transplanted here to Eastern. Congratulations on your new job, and go Eastern.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up our first interview segment, so we'll clear the set and we'll learn a little bit about Greyhound women's soccer right now. Welcome back to SportsLook, and we're bringing a first-time guest on. This is a new assistant coach for Eastern New Mexico University Greyhound women's soccer, a young lady by the name of Nona.
Yes.
Nona, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, Nona, the first question I always ask a new guest, where are you from and what was the process that got you here to Eastern?
Yeah, so I'm originally from New Jersey. I grew up in Durham, North Carolina. I've been playing soccer since I was 8 years old, so for a long time now. Different positions, different clubs around the Triangle area in North Carolina. I got to play college soccer at UNC Pembroke. Got my master's at North Carolina Central University, and then while I was there, I kind of took a break from soccer, but I found my love for it again, and I've always wanted to coach and just kind of get into that space where I can help young females become better soccer players and around the sport that I love. So just being able to do that, and here I am in Eastern New Mexico.
So was soccer your only sport growing up, or did you play other sports and just gradually decide that was your sport?
So when I was younger, I did gymnastics, and then I have 3 sisters, so it got to be a lot for 4 of us being in multiple sports, so we were kind of like, okay, you kind of have to choose one, so I went with soccer. I practiced with our track team and when I was in high school, just to try to stay in shape for our soccer season. So I did a couple of other sports, but soccer was the main one.
So what position did you play?
Ooh, a little bit of everything. I've played everywhere. In high school, I was a center forward, but for club in high school, I was a center back or center midfielder. For college, I started as a right back, and then I shifted into the midfield as well. So a little bit of everything. I even played goalie once, not in college, but before that. So
Everybody should have to do that at least once, or you had to do that depending on your
Yeah.
point of view.
Yes.
So what did you major in?
I majored in exercise sports science with a concentration in sport administration.
So did you realistically think at that point there might be an opportunity to coach, or was that kind of you were heading in a different direction?
Because of the coaches I had growing up, I knew that coaching was something that I was always interested in. I just wasn't sure when I wanted to do it, but I was always sure that I wanted to do it. So I wasn't sure if that was something straight out of college or something I would get my work in the administration side and then shift to it. It was always something I wanted to do, just not sure when.
Well, let's specifically talk about your becoming an assistant coach at Eastern. That process works 2 ways. First of all, Coach Belcher has to sell you on why you want to be an assistant coach, but you have to sell Coach Belcher on why you'd be a good assistant. So
Yeah.
how did that process work out?
So actually, I was referred here by one of my old teammates. She was going to come here. She just decided to go with in a different direction. So the interview process, I reached out. Hi, I'm interested in coaching. We set up our first interview, went through that, asked me questions about how I like to do things. I asked him how he likes to do things, and it was we were kind of on the same page about a lot of things. So I went through with my second interview where I had to put together some presentations on how I would run things or how I would help with running things as an assistant coach. And then, I got the offer and I was driving over from North Carolina to New Mexico within 2 weeks.
Well, talk a little bit about your experience with Eastern soccer so far. You've had a couple of exhibition matches. We've actually got highlights of one of them. So
Okay.
what did you think you knew when you got here, and what do you know now that you didn't?
Something that I would say I know now that I'm learning is speaking up more and learning how to teach people who I've never met before. So usually I've been in places where I've known people for a number of years, but this is a whole new group of girls that I'm having to learn and coach and interact with on a daily basis. So learning them and also them learning me, that was definitely a big a step. And also learning Coach Belcher's way of doing things and things like that. So those were the 2 things that I'd say are big on what I've learned since I've been here.
Well, we talked about the fact you have had a couple of exhibition matches, one of
Yes.
them involving University of the Southwest, and the Sports Information Department was nice enough to provide us a highlight video. So it's kind of episodic, so it's going to move pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But let's cue it up and just give us your impressions of the highlight reel as we watch it,
Yeah, of
please.
course.
So obviously, offense and defense, you hope they come along at the same pace. Which is farther ahead right now, watching the tape here?
Watching the tape, I would definitely say our defense is more ahead, just by what I've seen on the tape and at practices so far. I think our defense is more solid in knowing their roles. I think our forwards are mostly newer, so it's going to take them a little while to get used to our style of play.
So who is the most vocal leader, and who's the person who so far is leading by example? May not say a lot, but just leads by example.
So I would say Sophia Trejo. She is most vocal, along with Sierra right there on the screen. And leading by example, I would also say it's Sierra because she's not as vocal all the time, but she's always working hard and trying to be that person for the team.
And those are two
Seniors.
returnees.
Yeah,
Yes,
two
exactly.
seniors.
So you obviously may not want to just focus on one. You might want to mention a couple, but of all the newcomers, who are the most promising right now of the newcomers?
I would say our forwards. I would say Faith is a good addition to the team, along with Meredith, Sloan, newcomers wise, and then also a newcomer is also, I would say Guy is a good up and coming person, along with the rest of our midfielders. And then another returner or set of returners that I would say are doing well so far. I would say Megan's doing well, and then pretty much our whole back line is returners, except for one newcomer who's been really good. She wasn't initially a defender, but we kind of shifted her there, and she's been doing well. So I'll give that to her as well, Lily.
And obviously, keeper being an important position. And if I remember correctly, we lost our keeper from last year, so
Yes.
it's going to be somebody new. Is it still open, or have you pretty well selected one?
I would say it's still pretty open. We're still seeing how each of them are doing with at practices and within the games. So it's a pretty even slate, I'd say, between the keepers right now.
And Nona, how do you and Coach Belcher divide up the coaching responsibilities? What specifically has he tasked you with?
So I've been working with the goalies recently, so that's kind of, I'm seeing their differences, but also seeing their similarities. I've also been, we have a large group. We have 39 players on the team, so we kind of split practices sometimes. So he'll be working with a half, I'll be working with a half. It just depends on the session and what we're trying to accomplish with the session that day.
What's the best piece of advice that you ever got involving coaching? Who actually gave you something that was actual and factual that you know you're going to be using as long as you coach?
I would say right before I left, my old coach, when I was younger, he got me really started in soccer and made me really love it and helped me develop as a player. I definitely wouldn't be here without him. His name is Jerry O'Donnell.
Not the actor.
No.
That'd be cool.
I would say he told me that just be open to learning and always looking for the next step, so the next thing that we can work on, always looking for the next step for the girls to be able to work on.
I would be remiss in my duties, and Coach Belcher would be mad at me if I didn't mention that in the works, there's a pretty cool hat that's being designed that is going to be unique to Greyhound women's soccer. So any word yet on when they will be available for sale to the public?
I do not have any word on that yet.
Okay, we're just throwing it out there
Yes.
for that. But speaking of price, there will be a price for the hats, but the good news about Greyhound women's soccer is it's absolutely free. And it's a big day on Saturday because there's going to be a women's soccer match, there's going to be a men's soccer match, and there's going to be a home football game.
Yeah.
So what are your expectations in the early season? What do you think if people come out and watch the Greyhound ladies, what are they going to see?
They're going to see a group of girls that have been working their butts off this whole preseason and ready to come out and win. We're expecting 2 wins out of this first weekend. We have a game on Thursday at 7:30 and then Saturday morning at 11. So we're looking to have a clean sweep for these 2 games.
Well, Nona, it is a pleasure to get to know you. I hope that life here on the High Plains goes well for you. And it's going to be a privilege. I actually get to broadcast a few of your matches. So
Yes.
I will see you and Coach Belcher in action. And we wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up the interview segment of SportsLook. So what we'll do is we'll clear this out, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. When I was asked to become the host of SportsLook over a decade ago, I gladly accepted for many reasons. One of the reasons being was that I knew that I'd be able to be in close contact with my good friend Patty Dobson, who is the chair of the comm department, because virtually everybody who worked on the crew of SportsLook was a comm student. And so I knew I'd be able to talk to Patty about the kids and the progress that they were making. Sadly, I won't be able to talk to Patty any longer about the students here on SportsLook because unexpectedly, Patty passed away last summer. Patty was a great colleague, loved by everybody. And while somebody may succeed her as the chair of the department, no one could ever truly replace her. Well, that is going to wrap up in overtime, and that will wrap up our first episode of SportsLook for the 2024-2025 academic year. I'd like to thank my guests, Kevin Fite, the new athletic director, and Ms. Nona, who is the new assistant women's soccer coach. I had a floor crew led by one of my students, Mr. Ethan. So, for all those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.